You can be surrounded by people, laughter, conversation, warmth in the room, and still there's that familiar sensation, a subtle distance, like you're watching life through a thick pane of glass. You nod, you smile, you participate, but something essential never quite arrives. It's not that you don't like people, it's not that people don't like you. It's that you never fully arrive with yourself. And the paradox is this: the very skills that once kept you safe, reading the room, minimizing your needs, blending into emotional backgrounds, are now the reason you feel alone everywhere you go. You learned early on that being too much risked rejection, that expressing need invited disappointment, that taking up space made others uncomfortable, or worse, made you invisible. So, you adapted. You became emotionally self-sufficient before you were ever emotionally supported. You learned to exist near people, not with them. And now, even in full rooms, even in relationships, even in love, loneliness follows you like a shadow that never quite leaves your feet. This isn't because something is broken in you. It's because something intelligent once learned how to survive. But survival, when it outlives its purpose, becomes isolation. This archetype doesn't announce itself loudly. It's quiet, observant, emotionally restrained. Psychologically, this pattern often forms at the intersection of emotional neglect, hypervigilance, and avoidant or disorganized attachment. Let's name what's happening beneath the surface. Emotional neglect isn't the absence of love, it's the absence of attunement. You weren't abused, you weren't abandoned, but you weren't emotionally mirrored either. Your feelings were overlooked, minimized, or unintentionally dismissed. So your nervous system learned a dangerous lesson. My inner world is irrelevant to connection. Over time, this produces hypervigilance, a constant scanning of social environments. You track tone shifts, micro-expressions, mood changes, not because you're anxious, but because your safety once depended on anticipation. Your brain's default mode network, the system responsible for self-referential thought, never fully rests. It stays alert, monitoring, adjusting. And attachment-wise, many develop avoidant attachment, not because they don't want closeness, but because closeness was unreliable. You learn to regulate alone, to self-soothe in silence, to need no one because needing felt risky. This creates an internal split. You crave connection, but your nervous system associates depth with danger. So, you stay present, but not exposed, engaged, but not known. Lonely, everywhere. The greatest lost here isn't relationships, it's authentic presence. You traded truth for belonging, expression for acceptance, depth for safety. And the grief of that trade rarely gets acknowledged. You mourn the version of yourself that could have spoken freely. You mourn the relationships that never touched the core of who you are. You mourn the ease you've never known. Carl Jung once wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important." This is that loneliness, the kind that persists even in intimacy, the kind that whispers, "If they really knew me, would I still be welcome?" Philosophers like Seneca warned that a life spent adapting endlessly to others erodes the self. Rilke wrote of the quiet suffering of those who feel unsayable within themselves. You feel it daily, in conversations where you edit your truth, in moments where you sense something deeply but say nothing, in rooms where you belong socially but not existentially. And slowly, invisibly, the self begins to disappear. Not dramatically, but politely. This childhood adaptation doesn't vanish with age. It evolves. You might recognize yourself in these patterns. 1. In relationships. You attract partners who feel emotionally distant or who rely on you more than they know you. You listen deeply, you hold space, but revealing your inner world feels foreign, even unsafe. 2. In friendships. You're often the stable one, the advisor, the calm presence. Yet when you leave gatherings, something still feels empty. 3. In career. You excel quietly. You overfunction. You struggle to advocate for yourself, not from insecurity, but from a belief that visibility equals vulnerability. 4. In boundaries. You say yes when your body says no. You adapt instead of asserting. Conflict feels like a threat to belonging. 5. In emotional regulation. You intellectualize feelings. You analyze rather than experience. Emotions live in your mind more than your body. 6. In identity. You sometimes feel unsure who you are when no one is watching. Your sense of self has been shaped around others' needs. None of these are flaws. They are coping mechanisms. But awareness is the beginning of unlearning. The nervous system must learn that authenticity is no longer dangerous, that presence doesn't require performance, that you are allowed to exist without calibration. Healing here isn't about becoming more social or louder or different. It's about coming home to yourself. This begins with inner child work, not revisiting trauma, but restoring permission. Permission to feel, permission to express, permission to need. Shadow work helps reclaim the parts you buried to stay acceptable, the anger, the desire, the truth. And most importantly, nervous system regulation teaches your body what your mind already knows. You are safe now. Stillness without scanning, connection without self-erasure, presence without performance. Choose softness over survival, truth over adaptation, wholeness over approval. Because loneliness doesn't end when people arrive. It ends when you do. As poet David White wrote, "You are not alone. You are part of a great procession of souls learning how to belong to themselves." And remember this, the goal is not to be fixed, but to become whole. If this spoke to you, let it ripple outward. Like, share, subscribe. Someone else is sitting in a full room tonight feeling exactly this. And now, they don't have to feel alone in it anymore.